evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
The costs are starting to come in, and certainly we're anticipating a $5.7 million expense with respect to the policing and other responses that were provided, not just to move the protesters out, but to maintain the integrity of the roadway for the better part of a month.
This hub wasn't around when I was in high school, and now that it is, I think people who are struggling the same way that I did, this is an amazing resource for you because you can just walk in at any time, no appointments needed.
Today I'm announcing that I'm declaring my candidacy to be the Liberal nominated candidate for the Windsor Tecumseh riding to be the next MPP for this area.
Thanks for joining us. The city's response to the convoy at the Ambassador Bridge cost millions, and the mayor wants both the federal and provincial governments to pay up. The CBC's Chris Ensing joins me now live. Chris, how much exactly did this cost our city?
Yeah, Kat, the taxpayers are on the hook for $5.7 million to remove the blockade that was here for about a week back in February. Traffic moving smoothly here at the Ambassador Bridge. It has since those protesters were pushed away from the bridge. But let's break down that cost that is being incurred right now. The numbers show that just over $5 million, the biggest chunk of that request, goes towards policing. That's covering off overtime costs, as well as those barriers that have now been removed that ran up and down here on Church. Now, there's also $250,000 for legal fees, and that's the costs of getting that injunction in place that continues to be in place as of this moment. And the rest of those costs are really split between other city services, Public Works, Transit Windsor, and emergency services that had to step up during that time. Now, it doesn't include the billions of dollars in trade that was delayed during this closure. We heard a lot about that, especially within the automotive sector. When I spoke with the mayor today, he said that he does feel confident that upper levels of government will step up to help out, not just from a municipal perspective, but also businesses as well. We've been highlighting the costs incurred during that week, and we've seen that Ottawa has a program following the blockades and the protests that happened in that city's court. Now, when I spoke with the mayor today, he talked about what he's looking for from the federal government and the provincial government, but he also shared with me a lesson that he's learned after reflecting on the response to that blockade.
If I reflect back on what was done well and you know, where there may have been gaps, you know, I think if I had to respond differently myself, and from the police service perspective, we may have sent a written request on day one with the benefit of hindsight saying we need resources ASAP in order to clear this up. And it was difficult because of the language and the tenor on the ground, the language being used by some of the protesters where they were saying, I mean, you were out there, they were willing to die for the cause. And that necessarily meant that police had to provide a more strategic approach and measured response here because no one need die over an issue like this, right? It really raised the temperature. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I think everyone responded as good as they could in the circumstances. Certainly, if we look back now, could we have acted a day sooner? Probably. We probably, you know, instead of having verbal conversations, we maybe should have put the letter in writing immediately on day two. But we thought everything was sorted out on day two and moving into day three, and it wasn't until folks said, well, we needed it, what you requested yesterday, we need you to put it in writing, which added another day's delay to the response. But once it was put in writing, we received more human resources down here than we had even asked for by a factor of almost 3.
And Chris, on that request for funding, has there been a response yet?
Yeah, that request, according to the province, I just got a response from one of their spokespeople at the Ministry of Finance saying that it came in late this afternoon. The Ministry of Finance saying through a spokesperson today that our government thanks Windsor Police, the Ontario Provincial Police, RCMP, and all other frontline services who brought a peaceful end to the illegal blockade at the Ambassador Bridge. They go on to say that the Ministry of Finance did receive that letter this afternoon and they are reviewing its contents. Now, we've heard loudly from Windsor West MPP Lisa Gretzky, who's been calling for the provincial government to set up a program similar to what's been provided to Ottawa. And we've also heard from the federal government and representatives who say that they're working on this as well. MP Eric Kuzmarchuk for Windsor Tecumseh saying he's spoken with the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister as well. But all of them were pointing towards that formal request, which has now gone in today towards those upper level of governments. Now wait and see to see what comes next for people who live in our community. Kat?
All right, thanks for this, Chris. CBC's Chris Ensing live on Huron Church Road for us tonight. Being a teenager can be tough, and living through a crisis can amplify existing problems. But now, after years of work, Windsor now has a youth wellness hub. It's a facility some say has been long needed in the community. Jacob Barker has more.
Olivia Kashera says she has struggled with anxiety and depression since high school.
I was always so afraid to tell anybody. I never told my parents, no teachers, no friends. I just struggled on my own.
She says she would have liked for there to have been a facility like this when she was in school.
People who are struggling the same way that I did, this is an amazing resource for you because you can just walk in at any time. No appointments needed, no referrals. You can just walk in. If you have a big catastrophe happening or it's just small, you can just walk in and they'll help you. And all the resources are under one roof.
The look and feel of the new youth wellness hub was made for youth by youth.
Because it's really different when like an adult has to think, what do I think a 14-year-old wants? What do I think a 20-year-old wants? Because, you know, an adult might think, what do I think a 14-year-old would want when I was 14? Which is different than what a 14-year-old needs now.
It's meant for youth to access mental health and addiction programs, as well as housing and employment supports. The services will also be made available to those in the county by way of a van. When the province originally identified 10 sites around the province for hubs, Windsor was not included. Organizers here have been advocating for one over the last couple of years. Last year, the province recognized the need.
We had started down this path a couple years ago, actually, even before COVID, and done some focus groups and heard from youth and family and providers that this is ultimately what we needed to best serve youth and families. The navigation of the mental health system is challenging at the best of times.
The new hub is in a temporary spot for now in a building belonging to Maryvale, a children's mental health treatment center on Windsor's west side. But the organization is on the hunt for a more permanent location and are fundraising right now to make that a reality. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
New information is emerging about the man charged with killing 4 members of a Muslim family in London, Ontario last June. Nathaniel Veltman faces terrorism charges as well as first-degree and attempted murder charges. Police say his attack was motivated by hate after they obtained access to his digital devices and online activity. Thomas Dagla has this report.
In the frantic minutes following the deadly attack, the driver sped down this London road, blowing through red lights, according to witnesses who spoke to police. The new details come from documents used by investigators to request search warrants. 271 pages now released publicly, months after CBC News and other media asked the court to lift a sealing order, though many details are still covered by a publication ban. On a warm Sunday evening last June, prosecutors say a driver intentionally ran down the Afzal family, targeting them because of their Muslim faith. Salman Afzal, his wife Medea Salman, their 15-year-old daughter Yumna, and her grandmother Talat Afzal were all killed. Only 9-year-old Fayez survived.
These documents show police specifically searched for an axe, a machete, a serrated knife, and an airsoft rifle. They also sought to gather data from the suspect's laptop, as well as 3 external storage devices and as many as 3 cell phones.
After police searched his apartment and electronics, a detective said some documents appeared to be hate-related material and relevant to the listed offenses. An RCMP national security investigator writing, the murders constitute terrorist activity.
The ability to forensically retrieve this information and create a timeline is invaluable to law enforcement.
The pickup truck used in the attack continued straight down Hyde Park Road, turning left on Oxford Street and stopping in a mall parking lot. That's where the suspect was found, kneeling, wearing a green military-style helmet. His truck still running. 21-year-old Nathaniel Veltman wasn't known to the RCMP. Homeschooled until grade 10, he said he had few friends. Now he's expected back in court in April, formally accused of terrorism, with a murder trial approaching. Thomas Dagl, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a direct appeal to Canada today. Speaking to the House of Commons via video link, he thanked Canadians for their support as his country faced the Russian invasion alone, but warned that a lot more needs to be done to stop the deadly bombs raining down on his country. Ashley Burke reports.
Our friend, Volodymyr Zelensky.
He's the leader of a nation under deadly attack, risking being tracked and targeted by Russia to speak to Parliament live.
Currently, we have 97 children that died during this war.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke about suffering, about the daily death toll, asking Canadian MPs and senators to picture if it was them.
Justin, can you imagine hearing your children, hear all these severe explosions, bombing of airport, bombing of Ottawa airport?
His speech laced with references to Canadian cities and landmarks.
CN Tower. Can you imagine famous CN Tower in Toronto if it was hit by Russian bombs?
Zelensky famously using his voice of defiance once again to galvanize support.
You're inspiring democracies and democratic leaders around the world to be more courageous, more united, and to fight harder for what we believe in.
While the Prime Minister was in Parliament, Moscow added him and nearly the entire House of Commons to its blacklist, banning them from entering Russia. This after Canada's latest round of sanctions today against 15 Russian officials. Zelensky expressed his thanks, but called for more and stronger measures and repeated his plea for a no-fly zone.
Please stop the bombing. How many more cruise missiles have to fall on our cities until you make this happen?
We must do more together with our allies to secure Ukraine's airspace.
But NATO says it can't, fearing that would escalate and widen the war.
At this point, based on the information we have a red line that we can't cross.
I am grateful to Canadian people, and I am confident that together we will overcome and will be victorious. Thank you to Canada.
A standing ovation 3 minutes long. Guests in the audience chanting, "Glory to Ukraine." Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
And back to local news now. Ward 8 City Councillor Gary Kashak has announced he is the Liberal candidate for Windsor-Tecumseh in the upcoming provincial election.
Of course, the top thing that I'm going to be looking to do here is get that hospital to Windsor. It started many years ago with the Liberals, and that's my top priority. Make sure that comes. The three cares are really big in my platform, and that's health care, child care, and long-term care. We need improvements to all three of those areas.
Kashak's ward is located in Windsor-Tecumseh, and he was joined in a news conference today by Ward 3 Councillor Reno Bordelin and Ward 7 Councillor Jeevan Gill. Kashak will be running against NDP candidate Gemma Grayhall and PC candidate Andrew Dowie. Incumbent Percy Hatfield is retiring from politics. The election is June 2nd. Documents obtained by CBC News show the Ford government received its worst polling results in nearly 2 years when Omicron hit Ontario. The weekly polling was commissioned by the Cabinet Office and obtained through a Freedom of Information request. The pollsters asked respondents whether they feel the government is on the right or wrong track. In January, the percentage of people answering wrong track reached 58%. That's higher than at any time in the pandemic. The government was also told that its rating on economic matters hit the lowest level since the polling firm began tracking. And 2 years after the pandemic began, when just about everything shut down sharply, most provinces in the country are now easing COVID restrictions. But a new survey from the Angus Reid Institute in partnership with the CBC finds Canadians are split on the issue. 36% believe we are opening up too quickly, 38% believe we're opening at the right pace, and 1 in 5 believe we are not going quickly enough. The survey also reveals a deep divide when it comes to how Canadians view their leaders' handling of the pandemic. Now let's turn to something that might hit you in the feels, a trip down memory lane.
From Hollywood, it's America's Top 10 with Casey Kasem.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to America's Top 10.
Oh, that's a real fun game, Scooby. Come on, I'll show you how it works.
Till next time, this is Casey Kasem saying keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
That is the late, great Casey Kasem with his famous catchphrase there, and he is one of the most beloved figures in radio from across the river in Detroit. He died in 2014. An American DJ and an American legend, he's known for his top 40 countdown shows, the voice of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo, and appearances on programs like Saved by the Bell, which you saw earlier. Now, Kasem's personal items could be yours through an online and in-person auction in Beverly Hills beginning later this week. And it also includes items from his wife, Jean Kasem, and we got a preview.
Amazing auction celebrating the life and career of Jean and Casey Kasem. And of course, we all know Casey Kasem, that famous DJ, the voiceover on for many characters on Scooby-Doo. He brought us the top 40, the top 20, beloved all over America, in fact, probably worldwide as well. This is a lifestyle auction representing his life and career, and it's really fun, some really cool items as well. When you think of, Casey Kasem, the DJ, what is the equipment for his craft? As an artist, you think of Monet or Picasso, they have an easel, a paintbrush, a canvas. Well, Casey Kasem had a microphone, and we have a Newman microphone that's going on the auction block, right, his own personal microphone, and already that's at $15,000 before the auction opens here on Thursday at Julian's Auctions in Beverly Hills. We have a pair of boxing gloves signed by Muhammad Ali, and they're at $12,500 right now. So that will give you an idea of how sought after these items are, with amazing items like a sound check from John Lennon and Ringo Starr and George Harrison. So it's a lot of celebrity interaction throughout this auction, as well as beautiful home furnishings, beautiful gowns worn by Jean Kasem. We're just coming out of a pandemic that lasted over 2 years, and we have that awful situation with the war in Ukraine. And so people are looking for something happy, a distraction, a throwback to a happier time when we were young and listening to radio stations late at night and listening to the top 40 and who was going to be number one and all of that. That's what people are coming to the auction for. We're all nostalgic in some way. He was such a lovely man, such an iconic voice, and the sweaters he wore, so identifiable, so Casey Kasem, and we have a bunch of sweaters in the auction, and so to own one of his sweaters and to wear one of his sweaters, which you actually can, I think would be really cool. And when people see you wearing that sweater, they think, oh, a DJ, maybe Casey Kasem.
And yes, Beverly Hills is far away, but they are also taking bids online, and that's at Julian's Auctions website, and the auction is happening on Thursday. Live look outside, clear skies tonight, and then tomorrow, 19 degrees with a mix of sun and clouds. Dick Sirkovich will be here after the break with a look at your weather. Stay with me. Nick Sirkovich joins us now for a look at our weather. And Nick, it's been beautiful outside, and I was telling you over the break, I've put on my jean jacket. I'm done with my winter coat. So please tell me that I can keep my jean jacket.
You know what? I think you made the right decision.
Awesome.
I mean, we're going to see temperatures at least over the long range, and I was looking out the next couple of weeks. At or above the seasonal mark, so that's good. And in fact, as we move through the next couple of days, way above the seasonal mark. What is seasonal, by the way? Today. About 6 degrees is where we're sitting. That's more or less what seasonal is for Windsor. There's a look at current temperatures across the region. We've had some sunshine, although, again, some cloud cover in place as well. As we move through tonight, the sky cover is clearing out. That, however, with a little bit of moisture in the atmosphere, is going to lead to fog developing through the overnight, certainly in some of the outlying areas. So here's a look at the forecast. See how it clears out, and then we get these fog patches developing through the overnight period. Good chance we're going to see that in Windsor as well, but generally right across southern Ontario, we're expecting that. As this humidity starts to build as well. Now that sort of burns off into tomorrow. We get some good sunshine here. And how quickly we get the sunshine will sort of dictate what our daytime highs will be for tomorrow. As we move through Wednesday night into Thursday, again looking at fog patches developing, and then more sunshine for the morning on Thursday before we get increase in cloud cover there. Warm weather, though, sticks around for the next couple of days. Very warm weather. In terms of the winds, and this is sometimes a concern, especially along the north shores of Lake Erie, over the next couple of days, Thursday morning we could see wind gusts up to about 50 or 60 kilometers per hour out of the south, but that's really about it. Temperature-wise for tonight, down to 0 to +1, depends where you are, but fog patches developing, and as we move through the morning hours tomorrow, that's going to sort of keep the temperatures down a little bit, but as the fog begins to dissipate, we're up to 16. Now, I know earlier we were talking about 19, and it kind of depends. I've got mainly sunny skies for tomorrow. If we burn off that fog a bit quicker, we could see this jump up a couple more degrees. In any event, well above the seasonal mark for the next couple of days. Increase in cloud cover and some rain showers for Friday and Saturday, but 14 again into Sunday. So little dip, and then we're back up into the teens again.
I love it. Even if we don't get to 19, 16 is amazing.
We're still doing pretty good.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Nick.
You bet.
When we come back, we're going to meet a 12-year-old in Halifax with some ninja skills you won't want to miss. Stay with us. Back to some international news. A Russian journalist who protested against the war in Ukraine by interrupting a TV broadcast has been fined nearly $300 and released from prison. Here is the moment in question. Marina Ovsyannikova, an editor at state-controlled Channel 1 in Russia, was detained after she ran on set holding a sign saying "No war." She also released a video calling the war in Ukraine a crime and urging Russians to protest against it. She says she was questioned for more than 14 hours without being allowed legal help. A black belt is always seen as a signal of someone's competence and excellence. A 12-year-old in Halifax was recently awarded one, but not in martial arts. The only punching that helped him earn that top rank involved a computer keyboard. John Tatry explains.
I'll bring you to the next maze that I now have to complete.
Noam Pashanker loves playing video games after school.
You are this robot, Jamo, on a planet in space, and you're trying to farm stuff here because you found like seeds and stuff like that. Trying to farm for the Earth.
Your astrobot has to solve a series of mazes and avoid running out of battery.
I'll bring you to the next maze that I now have to complete.
Noam is easily the greatest maze farmer player in the world because he built the game himself. He's the first code ninja to earn a black belt in Halifax and one of 13 in the world.
So then once you have the soil placed, then you can, here you can plant it.
Code Ninja is a private company that teaches coding to kids using a belt system borrowed from martial arts. Each belt means you've mastered a new coding skill.
Coding is basically the computer has a bunch of algorithms that it's able to run. So coding is basically just activating those and telling it when to do that, how to do that.
Noam spent 6 months building this game to earn his black belt, which he wears on his wrist.
Here's the scene screen, so you can see everything within your actual scene. Like I'm in the farm scene right now.
Rachel Wong operates Halifax Code Ninja, one of 500 worldwide. She says Noam stands out.
He's actually one of the fastest who finished black belt. So when he first came in, he was like this tall. He was like this big, and he can barely type. And he go like that. And right now, he can type faster than his dad.
Computer science students, senseis, show the kids what to do.
As they go, if they want to learn website design, almost anything in technology, anything related, we can have them dive into.
Noam sees a future in coding.
I mean, I want to work something technology-wise. Maybe it might be like robotics or something, or just, again, software development.
John Tatry, CBC News, Halifax.
That's it from us. Good night.